All right, hello. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Kareena Karva. I was a part of the Lumiere Research Scholar Program, and I was in the fall 2022 cohort. My research paper investigated how mitochondrial dysfunction due to oxidative stress can influence disease progression of cardiological and neurological diseases. For this project, my research mentor was Ariana Abroad. So let's start off with the big terms. Mitochondrial dysfunction is a term whenever the mitochondria cannot function normally. So, as we know, the mitochondria is called the powerhouse of the cell, but the whole reason it gets that term is because of how many processes it's involved in and how influential it can be to the cell. So, the mitochondria is involved in apoptosis, cellular debris removal, ATP formation, calcium regulation, and reactive oxygen species production. Now, whenever one of these is thrown off, unfortunately, it can leave a variety of effects on the cell. But now, as far as those getting thrown off go, mitochondrial dysfunction has many causes. So the abnormality of the function of the mitochondria can be caused by a variety of things. But the most significant one is too much oxygen in the mitochondria, which is called oxidative stress. Now, mitochondrial dysfunction, or dysfunction of the mitochondria, caused by a surplus of oxygen, has a multitude of effects varying in severity. And this can range from deletion of mitochondrial DNA and cell death to telomere erosion. Now, for this research paper, I studied 39 scientific papers to understand the cause, effects, and consequences of mitochondrial dysfunction due to a surplus of oxygen and how it could cause neurological and cardiological diseases to progress. Now, as far as my findings go, with neurological diseases like Parkinson's, unfortunately, too much oxygen in the cell can cause dopaminergic neuron deterioration. And so with Parkinson's, unfortunately, this disease is progressed by dopaminergic neuron deterioration. So whenever you have too much oxygen in that cell causing the mitochondria to dysfunction, it's unfortunately going to cause the disease to progress by deteriorating those neurons, which is a key factor in the progression of the disease. Additionally, in diseases like Alzheimer's is associated with mitochondrial deficiency. Now, patients are also likely to suffer from too much oxygen in the cell and the dysfunction of the mitochondria, because if you don't have enough mitochondria to even remove the reactive oxygen species, you're not going to be able to get it out. Reactive oxygen species, a surplus of this is actually, oxidative stress or too much oxygen in the cell. So if you don't have enough mitochondria or you are facing a mitochondrial deficiency, unfortunately, this is going to be very difficult for your body to remove the additional reactive oxygen species, and this causes oxidative stress or too much oxygen in the cell, and that too much oxygen is, it's like a domino effect. It's going to cause that dysfunction of the mitochondria. But now, as far as cardiovascular diseases go, in hypertension, oxidative stress, what actually occurs is oxidative stress creates inflammation. And as it creates inflammation, it sends these inflammatory cells into the body wherever it feels this oxidative stress. So when those inflammatory cells gather around that site, it's going to create inflammation. And as you increase inflammation, it makes it a lot harder for that blood to flow through. So as that blood is a lot harder to flow through, it increases blood pressure. And this, unfortunately, can also be associated with myocarditis, which is the inflammation of the heart muscles, if that is where the oxidative stress occurs. Now, unfortunately, any oxidative stress whatsoever has the ability to injure proteins, and if this is combined with hypertension, this can be irreversible. So essentially, too much oxygen in that cell is going to cause that mitochondria to stop working as it should, and whenever the mitochondria cannot work as it should, if it's combined with a high blood pressure, it's unfortunately going to look like it's going to be reversible as far as damage goes to the cell. Now, to the right, I actually have a graph that shows the results of one of the studies for a current medication that is out to reduce the effects and severity of mitochondrial dysfunction. Now, addressing this, as far as addressing the true root source, unfortunately, it doesn't look like there's a lot of options for addressing oxidative stress or too much oxygen in the cell. However, one thing you can do is target mitochondrial dysfunction, or the abnormality of the function of the mitochondria. Unfortunately, this was not a very good medication, and there's still a lot of room to be worked and dealt with as far as medication findings for cures go.